Hey, what's up, everyone? Welcome to Kodansha Live. My name is Misaki Kido, and I am the host of the show. Thanks for tuning in. It's almost June. I don't know if you're ready or not, but here it comes. We have lots of new digital debut announcements today, and also second half of the episode, we're going to be dedicating it to a brand new series called Boys Run the Riot by Keito Gaku. By debuting a brand new video, and also within the video, we're revealing a new cover art. So I hope you stick around until the end to watch it with us. So let's get started with the June 2021 digital debut announcement. So as you may know, that we have been releasing some new manga titles on the digital platforms first, so that we can kind of test out the water of what kind of manga people like to read, to get the idea of how we pick the titles to publish in the future. So let's see, starting with the first one coming out in June. Your boy coming. Yes, this brand new title's coming from in June 1. You may know this name Ming. You might recognize it from the Three Kingdom. He's the famous general from that time. But in this story, it starts out with his like later days in his deathbed, actually, to be precise. So when he supposedly passes away, he gets transported to another world, and that looks like hell, or it actually looks like Shibuya, with the 109 building in the background. And so yeah, everybody else, and it's Halloween of all time, when the portals are kind of loose. And everybody else thinks that he is some guy who is dressed up in very authentic Kombin costume. And they offer him a drink, and they go kick it at some clubs. And at the club, there he sees a diva from hell, who's like with an incredible music talent. So this is how they meet, but actually the next day, when she's off of her shift, comes out of the club, and here she sees Ming totally wasted and trashed on the alley. What is she going to do with him? We're about to find out. So that is your boy Ming, coming out in June. Alright, next up is Police in the Pond by Miko Yasu. This is coming out in June 8th. So this is a really interesting piece, focused on the two policewomen and their daily lives. This creator, Miko Yasu, apparently was a police officer herself. So that's kind of an interesting take that she incorporates her experience into a story, but it's also a fiction, and it's also a humor, like a gag manga. You can read it from a different perspective, and then follows the story. The story follows this main character who became a police officer because it's a steady job. But when she became one, she realized how hard of a job it is. She's like, I'm totally gonna quit. Until this fateful day where she meets her new boss, who's happened to be another female police officer. Now, yeah, she's really like, nice looking, and she's really like, unassuming, and she's like here, like kind of helping out some guy who just fell on the street. But then she was like, wait a minute, I was just looking at your shoes that matches a print almost at the that I seen in the crime scene, and I feel something that feels like a metal bar in your bag. Can you come with us to the station? So basically she kind of used this situation nonchalant, came up on him, and took him in to her station. And then also, yeah, here she's talking about how much she hates the image of a very nice, kind female police officer who likes kids in those pamphlets. And then, like, next moment, she kind of falls into the same situation. She was like hating on herself and catches herself. There's a lot of like real talks happening in this manga. Like the other officer too. She's like, both of them showed up to a school to give a little talk to the local kids, and one of them asked like, "Why do I have to follow a rule?" And she thinks about it. Like in her mind, she was like, "So that you don't have to go to jail." But she, quickly thinks about how she would have delivered this message to the kids, and she ends up saying that, look, I was talking to this guy who was a robber. How do you pick those towns that you going into business? And he was like, I always like look for what kids are doing, and like, if there's like kids who are like riding the bicycle, doubled up when they're not supposed to, that means like there's not that many people who to, say anything about rules. So those tend to be my targets. And in contrast, like those, tight-knitted cities, it's much hard to crack into. So this is kind of her way of sharing her experience to the kids, and it's all pretty much a real talk. So I wonder what else these two are going to get into. Police in a Pod coming soon on June 8th. All right, next one up. This is like a bit of a mystery series that sets in like a Victorian era vibe setting, but it's also a fantasy piece as well, as you can feel it. Like the story in this world, there are supernatural existence, including beings like vampires, and these otherworldly things coexist with human beings under the contract saying that they would never eat human beings. But only a very small portion of vampires follow this rule, and therefore they're always on the verge of like getting into trouble with each other. Now, one of those vampires who was following the rule was killed one day, and there was this detectives who specialize in supernaturals came over to this chateau to deal with this case of vampire murder. And it looks like this duo, like a male and a female, and another bird cage. And they're like super serious. This is like our third wheel. Like this is our master who works on this cage. Nobody else believes him. And but then they're really serious. Like when they start to going into the case, like they are allowing the birdcage to look around the environment to find more clues. And the little kid who was at the chateau was obviously curious about what is in the birdcage, and she takes off the veil, and there was just the head of a beautiful woman in a birdcage. So therefore, the super creepy cover, actually beautiful too, of the Undead Girl Murder Farce. So stay tuned to that one. It's supposed to come out on June 15th. Okay, next one. Saint Cecilia and Pastor Lawrence. This one is coming out in June 22nd, and it follows. It feels like another fantasy world setting, but it's mostly focused around the life of these two characters here. One is a pastor, one is a saint, and this saint ladies very well respected figure in the community, and she's like doing a great service to the this people who comes to her with some troubles. But on her off time, she's kind of like you know, just like everybody else, but she's just like lazing around, maybe a little more than everybody else. She tries, like, you know, she's not just like sitting around. She tries to clean, but she falls asleep in the middle of it. And this like pastor just keeps on basically trying to take care of her, like almost like a mom. So it's kind of a really cute relationship between the two characters. And that's Saint Cecilia and Pastor Lawrence, coming out in June 22. Okay. This one is a pretty interesting one. So Quality Assurance in Another World, as the title suggests, is another worldly series, isekai series. And it's set in this very vibrant world where there's dragons that shape like no dragons in any other world that I've seen before. It's really cute though. This is a scene where in the beginning this giant dragon appears to a village, and girl's trying to escape from it as everybody else, but then there's a hand that comes out of the bush and grabs her, so she couldn't move. She was okay though, for not moving around that much, and she ends up meeting this guy who just came out of the bush, and yeah, he seems to be cool. He takes care of her, and then he's taking the notes of everything else that's happening around him. And she asks like, "What are you doing?" She's like, "I'm writing down. I wanted to see the dragons really close by." So that was kind of a risky move of him, I guess. And then, like, when she brings this up to somebody in town, the old man says like, "Oh, he must be like one of the king's seeker. Like, who are like these are, you know, there's like a lot of strange thing that's happening in the kingdom. So these like, you know, higher peoples like have hired a bunch of seekers who gathers research about what is happening. They're just like, you know, the most skilled people of all, but you know, it's the elitist of elite. But girls thinks like, oh wait, I don't think he's like a elite type or anything. But so she's, you know, nobody really is sure of what his deal is. Back at his camp, he's like writing down stuff. I guess this is part of his job. It looks pretty cool. And then, but he seems to know like what's gonna happen next, like a little bit sooner than everybody else. Like he's just like on to the fact that dragon from like earlier just like came back in town. It's gonna attack your town, like. And then he goes like, "I don't want you to die this time." So that's kind of a little bit of giveaway on what's going to happen in this series. And that is, oops, sorry. The Quality Assurance in Another World. Look forward to it coming out in June 29th. Oh yeah, so that's all the digital debuts coming out in June. And just to let you know that all these books are already available for pre-order on Comixology, Google Play, Kindle, Nook, and Iznio. So, you know, just kind of take down the title and then just like pre-order it so you remember when it comes out. All right. So, as I promised earlier, we're going to talk about Boys Run the Riot. Just in time for the Pride Month, this brand new manga that just came out that is like super awesome, and I can't wait to talk about it with more people. And this week we are, in this episode, we are debuting this brand new video featuring the creator of this manga series. And also in the video, we will be revealing the new cover art that was drawn for the English edition of this manga. So stay tuned and let's check out the video. What's up, everyone? So there's a brand new manga that's coming out this summer that everybody should know about and must read, and it's called Boys Run the Riot by Keito Gaku. The story follows the life of a trans teenager in Japan who is exploring his gender identity and comes up with a street fashion brand with his friends from all walks of life. Here's a special showcase of Boys Run the Riot featuring a rare footage of the creator illustrating the US edition cover and also a commentary by the English manga editor. Let's take a look.
Hey everyone, my name is Tiff Joshua TJ Ferrantini, and I am an editor at Kodansha Comics. As an editor, our role is to make sure that any manga that we publish is as accurate to the Japanese version as possible. So I work very closely with translators, with letterers, to ensure not only the accuracy of translation, but to make sure that English readers are getting the same kind of reading experience in English as they would get if they were reading the manga in Japanese. This series is really interesting because the author had previously won a prize for a short story, which he ended up later adapting into being Boys Run the Riot, the series. And when he had won that prize, they had put the short story online for folks to read. So that's how I kind of first discovered Keito Gaku. And I just remember being like, oh man, I can't wait to read more works from him. I feel like it's very kind of rare to find manga not only about transgender main characters, but by transgender authors as well. And, as someone who's trans, I also really personally related to that. So I was incredibly excited to read more work from this author.
Could you possibly go a little bit more detail into the story? How would you describe the story of Boys Run the Riot?
So it is about Ujiro, who is he's currently in the closet, and he is a high school student who is transgender. He's still kind of discovering who he is, how he is in relation to his gender identity. And he doesn't really feel comfortable, conveying that to anyone else, especially since he's still trying to discover it himself. He's dealing with, conflicting romantic feelings for one of his best friends. But for him, really the one time where he finds solace and true comfort in who he is as himself is when he's wearing his favorite clothes. So it's also a great narrative because you also get to see all this really cool Japanese street fashion. What happens in the first chapter is he's out shopping one day and he bumps into a new transfer student who just joins into his class. And at first he meets the guy, he's like, oh, he looks super cringy. He's kind of bad news. How can he stand out the way he's standing out? And then this new student comes up to him and he's like, hey, we have the same taste in clothes. Do you want to start a fashion brand with me? It is such an endearing coming of age story because you get to see not only this journey that Ryo goes through discovering his gender identity, but also the friends and the allies that he makes and how he grows more and more comfortable with himself and how he grows comfortable with, he finds allies who he can kind of come out to help, not only having to keep who he is inside of himself, but how he can express that to the world. For me, there's really kind of two characters who I relate to a lot. The first is Yo, because as I was, first reading Boys Run the Riot, there were so many moments in his narrative where I'm like, wow, I've been there. I've been in the position where people have asked me hey, why are you dressing like that? And just the anxiety that he feels with thinking oh, I don't know, does it even matter to try anymore? Are these people going to accept me? That feeling is so relatable and palpable to trans and non-binary folks. So that I related to a lot. And also to the moments of confidence that he feels when he really gets, comfortable with yeah, this is who I am. And he starts, being not ashamed of who he is. That is also an incredibly refreshing part of the narrative that I really related to as well. And then another character we see come in at the very end of Volume 1, but they play a pivotal role later on in the series, is Tsubasa, who is a YouTuber who's really into makeup tutorials. They also kind of discuss a lot of LGBTQ plus issues. And while I am not very good at makeup or a YouTuber, I love what their character represents because they are just unapologetically themselves. Gender issues are in Japan right now, it's quite different from how it is in the States and all over the world. So we also have that added element of adding additional notes that were not only relative to the content, but also kind of were like mentioning how gender and LGBTQ plus issues are handled in Japan versus you know, how they're handled in the States. And like, for example, like if a certain word was used, but it would be interpreted differently for like an English language reader, we kind of had a note about that. Another like really kind of interesting thing too is you see Ryo kind of dressing a certain way and also like binding his chest. So another note that we added was just for readers to be like, by the way, please make sure that you're binding safely if you are, you know, using these methods to bind. So I'm really glad that, you know, we were not only able to kind of do what we normally do and, you know, add these translation notes that also kind of comment on like the text itself, but have that added element, particularly how it pertains to the LGBTQ plus and trans community. I still can't get over like what like special things unique to the US edition we were able to do for this. Like
what'd you do?
the interview with Keito Gaku is like one, like the just how we were able to just facilitate that was just so great. And he drew like brand new covers for us as well for volumes 2, 3, and 4 of the English edition. And that was fun because I don't think we've ever worked with an author that closely before to create brand new cover illustrations. So what happened was we had given him a kind of a rough sketch idea. Keito Gaku and the editorial team asked us to kind of draw like a rough sketch of what we were thinking for the covers. We loved this one image that was used for when the magazine first serialized, which is the first cover image that you see of like video, and it's like a split image of him wearing his school uniform and then him wearing like his favorite kind of clothes. So we thought, wow, that motif, that kind of theme would be really great to continue throughout the story. So I basically drew these little kind of like stick figure doodles.
Nice.
And then put like all these little notes for the author to just be like, oh, like maybe something like this or maybe something like that. That way, you know, we kind of gave him like ideas to play around and do. That was really fun. And then from that point, you know, he did a few like rough sketches of like, oh, this is what I was thinking. And of course they all looked great. And then, you know, after that we received the final colorized versions from that. But the fact that that was even like something that we could do is just completely mind-blowing. I would actually love to see a lot of folks who haven't read manga before reading this. I mean, I think Boys Run the Riot is a great opportunity for either allies or if you're someone who has a transgender friend or a relative and you're looking to learn more about it and you're interested in manga or graphic novels, I think that this is like a perfect avenue to learn about it. And also obviously for LGBTQ plus manga fans, it's sometimes, you know, it can be harder to find content that hits so personally and, you know, something that you can resonate so deeply with. So I really just hope that, you know, transgender manga fans can like find this and can, you know, see themselves in Go and enjoy it as much as I did when I was reading it and then later editing it.
What's up? Yo, that was really cool. Hey, thank you for watching that with us. So the video debuted here on Kodansha Live, but a little bit later today, I will post it on our YouTube channel as well. So be sure to share it with your buddies and so forth. And one more thing, I have a new announcement. So this Friday we're throwing a party to on Clubhouse to celebrate the launch of Boys Run the Riot and kick off the Pride Month with the team behind the localization of the manga series. If you already haven't, try to join Clubhouse. Like ask your friends around for any invite. And you can also try to ask us any questions or comments about Boys Run the Riot debut with a hashtag Boys Run the Clubhouse. We will be sure to keep an eye out to this hashtag for more information and also comments from everybody. So that's pretty exciting. Oh, and be sure to subscribe our YouTube channel because we have tons of cool new announcements like this coming out in the near future. So hit the subscribe button. We'll be sure to that you'll be the first one to hear any news from us. So that's it for today. Thank you for watching Kodansha Live, and I hope to see you guys next time. Until then, peace out.